In Abeokuta, people knew Adeola Ajayi by two names. In the barracks, she was Colonel Adeola, the woman who commanded soldiers with her voice and carried respect like a second skin. But in her street, neighbors simply called her Auntie Adeola, the calm woman who sometimes waved at children playing 10-10 by the roadside. Beneath those two names lived one woman, tough in uniform, soft in private. Adeola's heart carried scars no medal could heal. She had been married to Tunde Ajayi for 10 years. Tunde used to be a spare parts trader in Fo, the type of man who could turn a tense room into laughter. Adeola loved him deeply. She never forgot the early days when they struggled side by side. She once sold her late mother's gold bangle, the last thing she had from her, just to pay his school fees when his family abandoned him. "You are my miracle," Tunde had whispered back then, holding her hands with tears in his eyes. "If God gives me anything, I will make sure I share it with you." They built a life together. A shop, a home, small victories, but one dream kept slipping from Adeola's hands. The dream of a child. 5 times she had carried life inside her. 5 times she returned from the hospital with empty hands. Each miscarriage tore another piece of her soul. People whispered, some pitied her, others mocked her. At family gatherings, her mother-in-law would shake her head and mutter, "Colonel, we no fit deliver pikin. You can command soldiers, but you cannot command your womb." The words cut like a blade. Adeola would smile politely, stand tall, and walk away. But when the lights were off at night, she would bury her face in her pillow and cry silently. Not like a colonel, not like a soldier, but like a woman who had lost too much. Still, she loved her husband. Tunde never raised his voice against her. He never threw the insults others did. He would hold her hand and say, "Don't worry, Adeola, our time will come." Adeola believed him. She clung to that hope like a lifeline. But one evening, her world cracked open. She had just returned from a long meeting at the barracks. As she entered the house, she remembered she had left her phone in the room. She went to get it, but before her hand touched the table, a voice stopped her cold. Tunde's voice. It was sharp, angry, full of panic. "Kemi, what is wrong with you? You know the agreement. No pregnancy. I told you before. No drama. My wife may not have given me a child yet, but she's my life. Don't you dare think you can replace her. Get rid of that baby immediately." Adeola froze. Her chest tightened. The name Kemi hit her like thunder. Agreement, pregnancy, replace, get rid of. Her knees wobbled, but her training kicked in. She tiptoed back, her face stiff, her breathing shallow. Her heart, though pounded like drums in a war zone. She wanted to storm into the room, to shout, to break everything, but she stayed quiet. Years in the military had taught her one lesson. The first person who loses control first loses the battle. That night, Tunde came to her as though nothing had happened. He poured her a glass of wine, kissed her cheek, and smiled. "Why do you look sad now?" he asked, pretending concern. Adeola forced her lips into a small smile. "Nothing, no," she lied. But inside, she was burning. 2 days later, Tunde's phone kept buzzing non-stop. He grew restless, his eyes shifting, his hands nervous. When Adeola asked, "Who is calling you?" he brushed her off quickly. "Nobody, oh, it's just business people." That evening, he announced casually, "I want to grab a drink. I won't be long." Adeola's instinct screamed. She had lived with danger all her life. She knew the signs of betrayal the way a hunter knows the sound of footsteps in the bush. She quietly followed in her old Corolla, staying far enough to avoid suspicion. Her worst fears came alive before her eyes. Near the old Ibara cinema, She watched as a tall, light-skinned young woman walked up to Tunde's car and slipped in with the confidence of someone who belonged there. She was young, stylish, with a beauty that stung like pepper in Adeola's wound. Adeola's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She wanted to ram the car to drag them both out, but she held herself. She drove home slowly that day, each meter heavier than the last. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat on the bed, staring into the darkness. 10 years. 10 years of sacrifice. 10 years of loyalty. And this was what she got. The next morning, her phone beeped. It was a new message. She opened it and her heart sank deeper. Madam, it read, I am carrying your husband's child. You've been barren for 10 years. Step aside and let me give him the family he deserves. Or do you want him to die childless? Adeola dropped the phone, her whole body trembling. The audacity, the wickedness, the cruelty. She pressed her hands to her chest and wept. For the first time in her life, she felt powerless. She had faced gunfire in battlefields, but this cut deeper than any bullet. But by morning, her tears had dried. Adeola looked at herself in the mirror. Her uniform hung neatly by the wardrobe. Her medals gleamed faintly in the early light. She wiped her face and whispered to her reflection. If she wants war, she will meet a soldier. Adeola did not rush. She had learned long ago that rushing into battle was the easiest way to lose. Instead, she planned. The morning after the cruel message, she called in one of her trusted aides from the barrack, a quiet young soldier named Body, who knew how to dig for information without leaving a trace. Find out everything about this KnEw, she ordered. Within a week, the report landed on her desk. Her name? Kemi Lawal. Age? 24. Background? Orphan, both parents dead. Grew up with relatives who treated her poorly. Current life? Lives alone in a small flat near Ibara. Works part-time at a boutique but mostly depends on wealthy men, known for being bold and disrespectful. Adeola sighed as she slipped through the file. So this was the girl who thought she could taunt her? This was the person who mocked her womb and her pain. That evening, Tunde came home humming as if life was normal. He sat in front of the TV, eating amala and ewedu like a man without secrets. Adeola watched him quietly, her face calm, her heart boiling. This man does not know who he married, she thought. 2 days later, Adeola rose early. She dressed in her full uniform, neat, sharp, her medals glinting. She called 2 female aides to follow her. When they arrived at KnEw's flat, Adeola knocked firmly. The door opened, and there stood the young woman. She was tall, light-skinned and stylish. But when her eyes fell on Adeola's uniform, her face drained of color. Adeola's smile was cold. May I come in? She asked, though her tone left no room for refusal. KnEw stepped back quickly, her hands trembling. Yes, ma. The apartment was small but neat. On the table sat a framed picture of Tunde smiling. Adeola chuckled, her voice laced with sarcasm. Is that your father? KnEw stammered. Adeola reached into her bag and pulled out printed copies of the insulting text messages. She dropped them on the table with a thud. Read your handwork. KnEw's legs buckled. She dropped to her knees instantly. Please, ma. Please, ma, forgive me. I didn't mean it all. I was only angry. I didn't know he was married. I'm sorry. Shut up! Adeola's voice slid through the air. You knew. And yet you had the audacity to mock me, to laugh at my pain. You think my womb is your victory? Your escape, your roots? KnEw wept, tears streaming down her face. Please, Mama, no far, no. I've suffered all my life. I only wanted someone to love me. Please, Mom, I'm sorry. Adeola leaned closer, her eyes sharp. You want love? And you think destroying another woman's home is love? You don't know me, KnEw. You don't know the woman you chose to fight. She dropped another folder on the table. Photographs of KnEw's childhood, her relatives, her old schools, but they had done a thorough job. Kemi's eyes widened with shock. You know everything about me, she continued crying. Adeola's voice was ice. From today, you will do exactly as I say. You will carry that pregnancy to term, and when the child is born, you will hand him to me. After that, you will leave Abeokuta. If you ever call, text, or ask about the child, your family will pay for your arrogance. Do you understand? Kemi nodded rapidly, crying harder. Adeola stood tall, her uniform glittering in the dim light. Good. Then this war is over between us. It is over even before it began. She turned on her heels and walked out, her aides behind her. The sound of her boots echoed like a warning. The next week, Adeola personally escorted Kemi to the military hospital. She filled the forms herself, registering Kemi under her name. The nurses who respected Adeola did not ask too many questions. From then on, Kemi's pregnancy was monitored under Adeola's watch. Every appointment, every scan, every injection, Adeola was there. Kemi hated it, but she dared not resist. The once bold girl was now quiet whenever Adeola entered the room. The nurses whispered amongst themselves, guessing at the strange arrangement, but nobody dared ask aloud. At home, Tunde noticed the change. One evening, he asked cautiously, Adeola, have you been seeing someone? Adeola turned and looked at him for a long moment. He shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. Shouldn't I be the one asking you that? She said finally. Tunde's face flushed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in their marriage, he looked small before her. From that day, their home grew quiet. Tunde still played the part of a loving husband, but guilt shadowed him. Adeola remained calm, but distance stretched between them. Meanwhile, gossip spread through town. The market women whispered her, have you heard? Colonel Madame caught her husband with a young girl. Another replied, but they said she went to the girl's house in full uniform. That girl won't forget that day. Oh. Some pitied Adeola. Others said she was too harsh. But everyone respected her boldness. As the pregnancy grew, Adeola found herself torn. Some nights she would sit by her window staring at the moon. Her mind was full of questions. Am I doing this out of love? Am I doing this out of anger? When the child comes, will he heal my pain or remind me daily of my husband's betrayal? She pressed her palm to her chest, whispering prayers only God could hear. Still, she carried on. She monitored Kemi's food, checked her drugs, ensured the girl lacked nothing, not out of kindness, but out of determination. If this was the only way she would finally hold the child in her hands, then so be it. By the 8th month, the baby's kicks were strong. At one hospital visit, Adeola stood beside the bed as the doctor smiled. The child would be healthy, strong heartbeat. For the first time in years, Adeola's lips curved into a genuine smile. She placed her hand gently on Kemi's swollen belly. The baby kicked, and Adeola's eyes filled with tears. She quickly wiped them away. But even in that fragile moment, she reminded herself, this child is mine, and no one will take him from me. Labor began on a Friday night. Kemi was rushed into the military hospital, her face pale, her cries filling the world. Adeola followed close behind, her uniform left at home this time. She wore a simple Ankara wrapper and blouse, but even in plain clothes, her presence commanded attention. The nurses turned around, adjusting IV lines, whispering updates. Adeola stood tall by the door, her arms folded, her eyes fixed on the girl who had caused her so much pain. But in that moment, Adeola did not see a rival. She saw only a young woman in pain, sweating, gasping, clinging to life while trying to bring another into the world. Hours passed. By morning, the cry of a newborn broke through the tension. A boy. The midwife lifted him high, his small body wrinkled, his lungs announcing his arrival to the earth. Adeola's chest tightened. Tears blurred her vision. She stretched out her hands and for the first time in 10 years, she held a baby. Not just any baby, but one who carried her husband's blood. The child yawned and curled his tiny fist around her finger. Adeola's throat caught. A joy she had long buried rose like sunlight in her chest. She whispered, "Wow, you are mine now." Kemi, exhausted, turned her head quickly toward them. Her eyes shone with tears. Not joy, but something else. Something unreadable. Resentment? Regret? Nobody could tell. The nurses cleaned the baby and placed him in Adeola's arms again. The colonel who had faced battlefields, who had carried guns and shouted commands, now cradled a fragile life with trembling hands. 2 days later, the celebration turned to mourning. Kemi developed a fever. Her stomach swelled abnormally. She complained of a sharp pain. The doctors rushed in, their faces grim. "Internal bleeding, oh!" Adeola stood by the bed, clutching the baby against her chest. As the medical team worked frantically, sweat poured down their foreheads. Gloves snapped. Machines beeped. Kemi's eyes fluttered open. She searched the entire room until they found Adeola. Her lips trembled. "Please, please, take care of him. I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Adeola's eyes stung, but she said nothing. Forgive me," she said. She only nodded once, firmly as if seeing a fact. Moments later, the line on the monitor went flat. The nurses sighed. One pulled the white sheet over Kemi's body. There was silence. Adola rocked the baby slowly, her tears falling onto his tiny hands. She had won the battle for the child, but at what cost? News spread quickly. Abeokuta buzzed with gossip. In the market, women shook their heads. That side chick. She thought she could take another woman's husband. See how she ended. Another replied, but death is too much punishment. The colonel is too harsh. Maybe she forced the girl. At the motor park, some men argued. If a woman cannot give birth, shouldn't she let her husband find another way? One said. His friend spat on the ground. I beg, don't talk nonsense. Loyalty should mean something. That girl had no shame. Everywhere Adeola went, whispers followed her. Some praised her strength, others condemned her, but nobody could ignore her. Today's reaction shocked even Adeola. He broke down completely. At Kemi's burial, he wept openly, his shoulders shaking, his voice cracking. He clung to the coffin as if he had lost a treasure. Back home, he fell to his knees before Adeola. His eyes were red, his face swollen. "Adeola, I was a fool," he sobbed. "I thought I could have both of you. I thought I was in control. But now she's gone. And I only have you. Please forgive me. Don't take my son away from me, please." Adeola watched him, her face unreadable, but inside, her heart was a storm. This was the same man who once promised her the world, who once kissed her hands and swore to share every single thing he had. And yet, he had shared himself with another woman. He had built secrets behind her back. He had almost destroyed her. She looked down at the baby in her arms, innocent, pure, unaware of the chaos that had brought him into existence. He gurgled softly, his tiny lips searching for comfort. Her heart melted. She pressed him closer, rocking him gently. For the first time, the house echoed with the sound she had long prayed for, a baby's cry. But Adeola's nights were no longer peaceful. When she lay down to sleep, her mind was full of questions. She would remember Kemi's last words, her whisper for forgiveness. She would remember the look on Tunde's face when he cried at that burial. She would remember her own tears when she first held the child. Was she truly a victor? Or had she simply inherited pain wrapped in a baby's skin? One evening, she stood by the window, looking out at the quiet street. The baby, now named Michael, slept peacefully in his crib. The moonlight fell across his small face, and Adeola felt both joy and sorrow all at once. Behind her, Tunde entered quietly. He reached for her hand, his voice soft. Adeola, please, let's start over. If not for anything, for the baby's sake. Adola turned to face him. She searched his eyes, looking for sincerity, for truth, for something to hold on to. But in her heart, a question screamed louder than his plea. Should she keep fighting for the marriage now that she had finally had the child she longed for in her arms? Or should she just walk away with her dignity, leaving Tunde to his guilt and raising the child alone? She tightened her grip on the window frame, her chest rising and falling. The night air was heavy. Michael stirred in his sleep, letting out a soft cry. Adeola went to him, lifting him gently, pressing him against her chest. The warmth of his body filled her with peace, but the storm inside remained. And as she rocked him slowly under the moonlight, the question lingered, heavy, haunting, demanding an answer only time could give. Should she stay or should she go? The end. And that is how the story ended. Colonel Adeola finally held the child in her arms after 10 long years of tears, prayers, and shame. But the child came through betrayal, through the death of another woman, through a storm she never imagined she would face. Now she stands at the crossroads, torn between staying in a broken marriage with a man who betrayed her or walking away with her dignity, raising her child alone. The question remains, should she stay or should she go? Please, what do you think? If you're in Adola's shoes, what would you do? Please share your thoughts in the comments below because you never know who is watching. And if this story touched you in any way, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so many people can join our story family. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and remember, betrayal may shake you, but dignity will always keep you standing tall. See you in the next one. Bye.